I am open to receive whatever is there for me in this moment, and just trusting that there is a divine timeline. There is a timeline that is setting you up for where you are going. You may not even know it. The goals that you're setting right now, they may be fucking tiny compared to what the universe, God, source has in store for you. So open yourself up to receive anything that is there for you, because when you open yourself up to receive what is there for you, you will actually learn that it's way bigger than what you are thinking it's gonna be.
Welcome to Path to Alignment with Hungry Yogi. My name is Natalie, your host. I'm a trauma-informed life alignment coach, yoga teacher, and retreat facilitator. If you made it here, you are ready to awaken parts of your soul that have been waiting to be unleashed. We will cover any and all aspects of the human experience. We get open and vulnerable about life and cover the shadows of life as well as the light. I'm so grateful that your soul found its way here. And if you would like to go deeper into your personal development journey, book a free 30-minute alignment call with me to learn about having me as your personal life coach. All the links to learn about my offerings are in the description. Without further ado, let's get aligned.
Hi, Path to Alignment fam. Thank you for being here today. I am so happy to be back, and I have so much to share just over the past few months. I feel like I took a little break from the podcast, and it's been a much needed going inwards type of break. I feel like I've set a lot of goals for myself over the past few years, and there's been a lot of things that I began and then they kind of fall off. To be honest, it's been difficult for me to express the past few months, or honestly, the past year. I feel like when I began Path to Alignment, the podcast, there was so much energy moving through me because I was going through like so many things in life. Like so many things were moving in my life in all the ways, from entering a relationship that has been absolutely just beautiful and has made me learn so much about myself over the past few years, to letting go of the things that my family would think of me through entering my relationship, through letting go of a career that I was going to embark on and choosing this really beautiful career that has brought me so much life. Letting go of the past career, like graduating as an engineer and then choosing a totally different avenue, a totally different path, which is completely the opposite of what I was studying. And then, of course, having to deal with the judgments of my family or people around me, and just having to let that go and really coming home to myself. The past few years have just been like, oh my gosh. They have, to be honest, been the most, I don't even know what the word is, the most, it almost feels like the most deeply rooted / like I've been rooting down years of my life. It's like my whole life has felt very much like here, here, here. Okay, make this choice because that seems like the right thing to do. Or, okay, now do this because that's what somebody else told you to do. Or, okay, let's just choose this career because I don't know what else to do. I don't know what my talents are, what my passion is. So much has been like up in the air, from like what I've expressed before in the podcast of moving around a lot and then never really having like a foundation or stability, to finally rooting down in one place and then getting married and then getting divorced. So there's been in my life just a lot of ups and downs, just like anyone, right? It's life. That's the point of it. It's not about not having ups and downs. It's about, how do I navigate the ups and downs? How do I show up through them? And the past, I would say 2.5, 3 years have really been about like rooting down. And it's been so exciting, like the most exciting 3 years of my life, to be completely honest with you, ever since I made the courageous choice to embark on an entrepreneurial journey, to date the person that I'm dating, to let go of so many parts of myself that I thought I was, and then just jumping into this version of myself and stepping into this version of myself shamelessly. Because the topic of my life the past few years has been shame, fear of judgment, the limits. And I feel like I am literally at the tail end of that now, if not already like overcome that mountain. Like the past few years have literally felt like this mountain, and it's like I was climbing it, and there's so many times that I would look down and it was like, oh my God, and so many rocks that were hitting me along the way, but it's like I just continued to climb up and up the mountain. And then it's like getting to the top of the mountain, and I feel right now like coasting. It's like the mountain doesn't really have like a drop. It's like okay, I got to the top of this mountain. I'm looking back, looking down at everything that I've overcome, all the things that I left behind on this mountain, everything that just like um, deteriorated in my life, that it had to deteriorate for me to be able to climb this mountain. Like literally every rock that hit me, or every part of the mountain that I was climbing, there was little crevices that were there for me to step on. And sometimes I would step on one that didn't feel very safe and really fucking scary, but somehow I would catch myself. And then I get to the top of it, and it finally feels like there's just like a coasting, like a, whew, oh my fucking gosh. We made it through it. We made it through all of that. And everything finally is feeling stable. And it's so good. It feels so good. And I think because I was climbing this massive mountain, there was goals that I was setting along the way, and like goals that were making me continue to climb and go up. And every single goal brought with it an energy of letting go of something. It's like every time you set a goal, every time you say, okay, I'm going to get this one thing, or I'm going to manifest this thing, or I'm going to create this thing, there is a process that has to happen of letting go of the parts of yourself that are holding you back from going into that goal, letting go of the shame, the guilt, the parts of yourself that are still attached to the version of you before that goal comes to life. There's just so much that has to happen. So along the mountain that I've been climbing, it's like I've set the goal, and through the goal, I had to shed away layers of myself. But it's like, okay, goal accomplished. Whew, cool, done. And so many things that have been done. One of those goals has been the podcast. And starting the podcast was actually one of the first steps that I took in my entrepreneurial journey. It was terrifying. It was like, oh my gosh, I'm actually doing this, but I just did it. Something that I admire about myself is when I say I'm going to do something, I just fucking go for it. I'm like, okay, let's just go. Like, I don't know what's going to happen here, but let's just go. And really just like letting go of the fear. I think that I consider myself a very fearless person. And I think that's a very important part of being an entrepreneur, because being an entrepreneur literally makes you have to conquer like all of your fears and look at them right in the face and be like, okay, we're going to work through you, and we're going to work through you, and we're going to let that go, and we're going to move through that, right? So the podcast was the first initial stage of me moving into climbing that mountain, because it was the first time that I was really expressing my voice to a large amount of people. Aside from teaching yoga, of course, that was where it all began for me, to even be able to express my voice. Thank you to yoga for creating that space for me to express. But the podcast was really the first thing, the first little goal on my mountain that I'm so proud of how much I showed up through the podcast in the beginning phases of it. But I was at the point where I was staying up in the middle of the night, 2 a.m., to launch the episode at 5 a.m. because I was so committed to getting those episodes out. And I'm proud of myself for doing that. And there came a point in my journey where I was just like, I have nothing to say right now. And I think it was because I was moving through so many emotions. And at first I was working with momentum. I was moving through so many emotions that it was almost just hard to express because I was finding out who I was. Like, I haven't listened back to my first episodes, but I can guarantee you I'm not even that person anymore. Like, that is definitely a part of me, but I have moved into like a totally different version of myself because I've let go of so much shame that was holding me down the past few years. That was probably the hardest part of climbing this mountain. So through that journey or that phase of like being like, okay, I have nothing else to say, I kind of stopped recording. And then I fell off for a bit with that, but other things were moving, like massive things were moving, from my Matcha Mama yoga events to clients to just all these new journeys that I've embarked on, becoming a Pilates instructor. That's been super fun. So there's just been so many things moving. But I had to give myself the space to step back from the podcast. And then I'm very ambitious. So when I decided to start the podcast again, I said, well, if we're going to start the podcast again, let's do it with video. Let's add a whole other layer of like challenge and difficulty and editing and time into this podcast so that we can get it out there full force. Like, why not? And no regrets. It's been awesome. Like the few episodes that I have recorded through video and uploaded, I've loved. It's been awesome to have this. But I did a little something where I feel like I started before I was ready. And I took on a really big task when what I actually had the capacity for in that moment was, let's go back to recording episodes every week with audio, just audio. And we'll do the video episodes later on. Like, that'll be the next goal. But this is a learning moment. So the reason I'm sharing this with you is because sometimes we can get a little overambitious, which is okay. Like, I think it's fun to be overambitious and to take on a big goal and then maybe you fuck it up and then you're like, you have to take a step back. But just letting go of the judgment around that. Like, if you decide to do something absolutely massive, like forgiving yourself if you don't show up the way that you thought you were going to show up, and then showing up again. Like, do it. Like, you're going to fuck it up and you may not start because you think you're going to fuck it up. Start anyways. Like, do it anyways. You may have the fear of creating something. Create anyways. Like, just basically like do it anyways type of thing. Because the perfectionist part of us comes in and thinks that you need to have it all, like all your ducks in a row to start something. And that's not always true. Like, yes, I do believe that foundation is so important because if you have a good foundation, then you can build on that foundation. That's actually something I've learned, honestly, with teaching yoga, with teaching Pilates. Like, there's always, if you think about this on a physical level, like starting with the foundational movements, you're not going to jump into a handstand without building the foundation from downward dog, from planks, like building the strength, the foundation. You're probably going to do a handstand and fuck it up. Try anyways, but try with a stronger foundation. So the foundation for my podcast was the audio. It was building the audio episodes and being consistent with that. And then I kind of fell off that part of the mountain and I stopped recording for a while, hopped back on with video. And then once I realized like I just legitimately didn't have the capacity as far as like my time, the commitment that I was putting towards it, building so many other things along the way. So I had to just take the step back, and I'm glad I did. I'm glad I did. And I'm coming now from a more grounded place. I'm actually sitting on a grounding mat right now. Look at this. Probably can't see it, but you basically plug it into the wall and it connects you to the energy of the earth. Like, it literally makes its way all the way down into the earth, brings that electromagnetic field into your body, and it's so good. I'm so relaxed every time I sit on this mat. Just look it up on Amazon. I don't know. But anyways, off track. Get you a grounding mat. Let me take a sip of my drink. By the way, I've been loving mixing cacao with matcha. And I added some ashwagandha in here, which is super good for lowering your cortisol levels, which is your stress hormone. Highly recommend looking into ashwagandha and cacao and matcha together. I never thought this would be a thing. They're actually like best friends. You just have to get the quantities right. Too much matcha, too bitter. Too much cacao, too bitter. You gotta get like the right amount, but it's like an earthy drink. So if you like earthy shit, this is for you. Also, look at my mug. I've shown it before, but this is just an iconic mug. Anyway. So today I sat down and I was like, I am going to record. I'm going to batch record some episodes, set myself up because I love this podcast. I love building this community. I love being able to express my voice. I am really stepping into expressing myself with even more authenticity, like not holding back, just fucking letting it out like that, like what I just did, and just letting it all out and just like being unapologetically myself and releasing any shame that comes with that. I may not always know everything. I will not always know everything. Actually, that's not a may. That's like, I will not always know everything. And there are times that I may not get it right. But from the place that I'm at right now, this is the capacity that I have. This is my voice. This is my expression. And maybe I'll look back at videos years from now and be like, what was I talking about? And that is okay because we're always learning, we're always evolving, and we're always trying to show up the best that we can. I'm always trying to show up the best that I can. I'm constantly doing the work every day so that I can show up my best. So with that being said, the podcast episodes will continue, but a commitment that I want to make to myself and to you publicly is I will be having video episodes and I will be having audio episodes. So if for some reason I just don't have time to edit a video, make a video, then I will do an audio episode and just take the path of least resistance. Taking the path of least resistance can allow us to fulfill our goals and our dreams because when we set such a gigantic goal, it creates a lot of resistance. Like there is now a lot of boulders that you have to go through and rocks that you have to navigate through and pathways that you have to open to make that happen. So when that is too much, finding, okay, what is my path of least resistance? If I have a goal in my mind right now that just feels way too massive, that feels like I just can't accomplish this right now, what is my path of least resistance? The path of least resistance is the path that can allow you to start embarking on that goal without having the big, gigantic pressure of what it needs to look like. So maybe like this is I'm using the podcast as an example because it's a perfect example for this, but the path of most resistance is recording the videos, editing them, sitting down to record, getting the lighting right, making sure that it's daytime so that y'all can see my path to alignment sign, which I just realized you can see it perfectly during the day. But because I didn't know this, at nighttime, it literally was so bright, it didn't show. So this is a learning moment right now. The path, maybe the podcast should be called Path of Least Resistance. Maybe the path to alignment is the path of least resistance. How about that? So anyways, path of most resistance, video podcast, right? Path of least resistance, what I know I was able to do successfully for like an entire year or more, audio episodes. So just having the audio and just launching it out there and not putting the whole pressure of editing it, launching it to YouTube, all these things, right? So I want you to think right now for you, what is your path of least resistance? Well, first and foremost, what is your goal? Like, what is a goal that you're wanting to embark on? Something that you're really like your heart is desiring but it just feels so massive that you're just like, I just can't. What can make that possible for you right now? Like, what is one thing you can start doing that can get you there eventually? I believe we are so used to instant gratification, to things happening so quickly. And this is because the programming of our society is based on social media and how fast everything is coming at us. Like, you want to know something? Okay, look it up. There it is. You get it in 1 second. You're on Instagram and you're scrolling. You don't like that? Scroll to the next thing, scroll to the next thing, right? So we have become very accustomed to things happening quickly, and it's developed a lack of durability, endurance, a lack of being able to sit with something for long periods of time, to set a goal and to fucking wait for it. Like, to not think that it needs to happen right now, but to understand the power of planting seeds. I'll make a whole episode about the power of planting seeds because I have something to share with y'all about that, because something massive happened in my life recently that brought this all into my awareness. So the power of planting seeds, right? So understanding that the path of least resistance is the power of planting seeds, and knowing that you don't have to do the biggest thing to get your goal or what your heart is desiring done, but you can actually just start planting seeds. So maybe you're wanting to, I'm going to use one of my clients as an example because I'm so proud of her. Maybe you're wanting to become a DJ. And that's like the massive goal. That's like the goal, is like DJing maybe at festivals or DJing at clubs or whatever it is that your goal is with DJing, right? But maybe that just feels so massive and you're just like, I don't know how to get there. So you wait like 20 years because you're like, I just don't know how to get there. It just seems so big. I can't do it. I can't do it. So this is where the planting seeds comes into play, or the path of least resistance comes into play. Maybe you don't start DJing right away, but maybe you invest in a course. Maybe you invest in a life coaching course. And if my client's listening to this, you're going to know exactly what I'm talking about. Maybe you invest in a life coaching course where with your coach, you're working through your blockages and your limits and your limiting beliefs and all these things that are holding you back from this gigantic goal that you've had your whole life. And through that process, the goal isn't even to become a DJ. The goal is, let me work through these blockages. And then you start setting goals. And the goals may look like, okay, you're going to record a 30-minute set and you're going to send it to me, or something like that. Or every single day, you're going to get on your little DJ controller and you're just going to play with it. Okay, so those are the little things. Those are the little steps that we can start taking without there being this massive expectation. Just allowing it to be what it is in this moment, taking the small steps, and then every time increasing slowly, remembering there's a foundation that needs to happen first. There's a plank pose that needs to happen before the handstand. There is a downward dog that needs to happen before the handstand. There is little jumps that need to happen to put the weight in your hands before the handstand, right? So there's these little foundational movements and steps that must be taken to get to that massive step. But those are the path of least resistance, the things that you can commit to that don't feel so massive that you self-sabotage. So really, self-sabotaging, it's what happens when we're trying to protect ourselves from feeling too much. So if something feels too massive, what we do is we self-sabotage to protect ourselves. We kind of hold ourselves back and go into a little cocoon, because if it's too much, too fast, too soon, your body's not going to be ready to hold that. So you have to set the foundational steps. So I'm going to leave you with this. I want you to just think about, like I said earlier, think about, what is your goal? What is that thing that your heart is desiring? Maybe that thing that you've been holding yourself back from doing. And first of all, why are you holding yourself back from doing it? Like, is it because it feels too big? Is it because you have limiting beliefs around it? Or whichever that reason is that you're holding back from, understand that so that you know, okay, every time that I self-sabotage, this is the reason. It's because it feels too massive, or whatever your reason is that you're holding back from doing it now. Okay? And then I want you to create a path of least resistance. How can I start right now with tiny steps without any expectation at all? Like, I'm going to give y'all one more example before I leave you here. When I started doing yoga, I had no idea that I wanted to be a yoga teacher. That wasn't even a thought in my mind. I started doing yoga. That's it. That's it. And then somebody told me you would be a great yoga teacher. I was like, oh my gosh, never thought about that. But that sounds amazing. So I invested in a yoga program. There wasn't huge expectations around it. It was like my heart was literally like, I need to do this. Invested in the yoga program, did the program, freaking loved it. Finished that, and then opportunities started coming my way. I just started putting myself out there without expectations of what would happen, where it would go. Started teaching at school. So I was teaching at the University of Houston to this organization that I was a part of. And then it started evolving into teaching weekly classes at the university. And then from there, it evolved into teaching at a studio. And then from there, it evolved to teaching at a music festival. And then from there, it just continued to evolve and evolve and evolve. And it's evolved now to the point that I'm hosting day retreats in my city, that I'm hosting a quarterly Matcha Mama Yoga event. So if you've ever heard of my events, Matcha Mama Yoga, it's something I do every season. And I'm going on year 2, or I am on the second year now of Matcha Mama Yoga. So it's like the consistency and the building blocks that had to happen before getting there. But there hasn't been this massive expectation. It's just been following my heart and following the path without expecting something massive to happen, but just opening myself up to whatever opportunities may be there. So it's like planting seeds and then saying, I am open to receive whatever is there for me in this moment, and just trusting that there is a divine timeline. There is a timeline that is setting you up for where you are going. You may not even know it. The goals that you're setting right now, they may be fucking tiny compared to what the universe, God's source, has in store for you. So open yourself up to receive anything that is there for you, because when you open yourself up to receive what is there for you, you will actually learn that it's way bigger than what you are thinking it's going to be. Okay? Thank you for listening. I love you so much, and you will hear from me weekly. And if you don't, reach out to me. Send me a message. Say, Natalie, what in the fuck, dude? Like, where are you? Okay. Love y'all.